Chosen one. You have been carrying a heavy question for months, maybe even longer. It is a question that haunts your quietest hours. Did I pass? Did God actually see what I went through? Does any of it even matter? I am here to tell you that God saw everything, but what he saw was not what you think. You thought the entire test was about your strength. You thought it was about your ability to keep standing while your world was falling apart. You were wrong. Those things were important, sure, but they were not what God was watching for. 3 weeks into your greatest trial, something happened in the throne room that made every single angel go silent. God was reviewing your journey. He was scanning every prayer, every tear, and every moment you tried so hard to get right. And then he stopped. He went back. He isolated one specific moment, a moment you do not even remember. The angels leaned in because when God pauses the timeline like that, everything changes. Here is what breaks my heart. You have labeled that exact moment as a failure. You have spent months trying to erase it from your memory because it felt like weakness. It felt like embarrassment. It felt like proof that you just were not strong enough. But while you were trying to delete it, God was showing it to every witness in heaven. At the end, God said 5 words that sealed your next season. This is exactly what I needed to see. Not what you said, not what you performed, but who you chose to be when you had absolutely nothing left. Heaven has been talking about it ever since, but you do not even know which moment I am talking about. You did not find this video by accident. Divine intelligence orchestrated this second for you, because it is time you knew that what you thought did not matter actually mattered most. Before I reveal that specific moment God has on replay, you need to understand why it was not your strong moments that qualified you. You are probably thinking about your public declarations of faith. Those matter, but the moment that truly decided your future is the one you are ashamed of. By the end of this message, you will finally understand why the moment you tried to forget is the only one heaven cannot stop watching. I am going to show you exactly what God saw and give you the framework to identify it for yourself. But I need you to do something first. Subscribe right now, not for me. Subscribe to mark this day as a turning point in your timeline. Like this video, if your spirit is already feeling the truth of these words, and comment the word witnessed. Do it as a declaration that you were seen even when you thought the world was dark. Do that now, because we are about to enter a room in heaven that most people do not even know exists. There is a private place called the observation room. Right now, there is one scene playing on the celestial screen. Your scene. God is not watching it alone. He has invited witnesses. They have watched this exact moment 40 times this month, and every single time it plays, there is total silence. Because what you did in that room, when you thought you were completely alone, is something only a handful of people in history have ever achieved. Job did it once. David did it in a cave. And you just did it on your bathroom floor at 2 a.m. Stay with me, because your life is about to make perfect sense. You need to understand something fundamental about how God watches your life. Humans are obsessed with duration. They look at how long you lasted, how many years you stayed in that difficult marriage, or how many hours you spent on your knees in prayer. But God is looking for quality. He is searching for one single frame, one instant where your true core shows up without any religious performance attached to it. Think of your entire trial as a 2-hour movie. Most people focus on the ending or the big action scenes, But God is scanning the footage for 1/24th of a second, a moment where you blinked and it was over. You probably did not even register that it happened, but heaven caught it in high definition. This is the frame that tells him everything he needs to know about your readiness for the massive assignment he has been holding for you. Let me show you a secret in the scriptures that most people walk right past. In the book of Psalms, chapter 139, verses 2 and 3. David writes that God is familiar with all his ways. Now, in English, familiar sounds casual, like a neighbor you wave to, but in the original Hebrew, the word is sakan. Sakan does not mean a quick glance. It means God keeps a detailed, high-level diary about you. Imagine a researcher documenting every single movement of a rare, priceless species. Imagine a father recording every tiny milestone of his firstborn child. That is Sakan. God is not casually observing you from a distance. He is studying you. He is analyzing the way you breathe when you are stressed. He is treasuring the way you choose integrity when it costs you money. In that divine journal, Chosen One, there is one specific entry with a bright red star next to it. One moment that God has highlighted, underlined, and circled. It is the moment you have been trying to hide, while God has been busy celebrating it. So, the question is, which moment is it? How do you find the one needle in a haystack of 1,000 memories that qualified you for the throne? I cannot just give you a generic answer because your journey is unique. Your location, your specific pain, and the choice you made belong only to you, but I can give you a strategic framework to recognize it. You see, there are 3 levels of witnesses to everything you do, and God only promotes based on level 3. Level 1 is human witnesses. This is when people see your faith. You stood up in church, you posted a powerful quote on social media. You defended God in a public argument. These moments are good. They earn you earthly respect and social credit, but they do not move the needle in heaven. Level 2 is evidence witnesses. You did something in secret, but there is still a trail. An anonymous donation with a tax receipt. A degree you earned while no one was looking. This gives you personal pride. But God does not need a receipt to believe you. He was there. Then there is level 3. Heaven witnesses. This is when only God saw what you did. No human observers, no physical evidence, no social media proof. If someone asked you to verify it happened, you could not. It is just your word and God's presence in a dark room. This is the choice you made at 2 in the morning when you were completely alone. You chose to stay connected to him instead of cursing his name, even though you had every human right to be angry. Why does this count the most? Because character is only truly revealed when there is no audience. Anyone can perform faith when the lights are on. That is not faith. That is a show. Anyone can obey when there is a reward waiting. That is not obedience. That is an investment. But who are you when the world is silent and there is no applause? That is your true self. And God only promotes your true self, never the version you perform for the world. Look at the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 16, verse 7. God tells the prophet that people look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. That word looks is raha. It means to gaze intently, to examine thoroughly. God is not glancing at your heart. He is studying it to see if you are a victim or a leader. You had a level 3 moment, chosen one. A moment where you thought it did not count because no one saw it. But heaven was leaning in, breathless, waiting to see if you would fold or if you would stand. And what you did in that hidden place is exactly why your next season is going to be explosive. But to fully embrace this promotion, we have to identify the geography of that moment. We have to go back to the very place where your mind says failure, but God says victory. Forgotten moments do not just happen anywhere. They do not occur in the middle of a crowded room or during a celebration. These level 3 moments, the ones only heaven witnesses, happen in very specific locations under very specific conditions. Once you understand the geography of these moments, you will be able to walk backward through your memory and locate exactly where your promotion was signed. There are 3 primary locations where these life-defining choices occur. As I describe them, I want you to pay attention to your body. One of these places is going to make your chest tighten. Your stomach might drop. That is because your body remembers the truth even when your mind has tried to bury it under months of busy work. The first location is the car. But I am not talking about when you are driving down the highway. I am talking about when you are parked. You are sitting in the driver's seat and you are not going anywhere. The engine might be humming or the silence might be deafening, but you are stuck. Maybe it is your driveway. Maybe it is a dark corner of a grocery store parking lot. The car is significant because it is a hybrid space. It is private enough for you to break down, but public enough that you have to maintain some level of composure. You cannot scream in your car the way you do at home because someone might walk by. So, what happens is a controlled braking, a contained collapse. Your forehead is pressed against the steering wheel. Your breathing is shallow, and you are suspended between the life you have and the one you are afraid to face. The choice you made in that seat when you decided not to drive away from God is a frame heaven has on repeat. The second location is the bathroom, specifically the floor. It is usually between 2 and 4 in the morning. Everyone else is asleep. You told yourself you were just getting a glass of water, but you ended up with the door locked, sitting with your back against the bathtub. This is the only room in the house with a lock that people respect. If you are in there for 30 minutes, people assume you are sick, so they leave you alone. The bathroom floor is where people go when they can't hold the mask up anymore. It is the place where you stop pretending to be the strong one for your family or your ministry. When you are sitting in that dim light, legs stretched out, finally admitting how much it hurts, that is where your true self shows up. The third location is the edge. These are threshold places, a window you are staring out of for an hour, a porch where you are standing in the cold, a doorway where you are frozen, 1 foot in the room and 1 foot in the hall. These are decision places. Physically, you are positioned between 2 options, inside or outside, stay or go, hold on or let go. You are literally balanced on the knife edge of your destiny. I want you to do something right now. Mentally walk through your home. Start at the front door. Walk through the living room, the kitchen, the bedroom. Pay attention to which space makes you want to skip over it. Which room makes you feel a slight pang of anxiety? That is likely where your moment happened. God has a history of meeting people in these forgotten, lonely places. Look at Hagar in the book of Genesis, chapter 16, verse 13. She was in the desert, abandoned and convinced she was going to die. In that forgotten place, she met El Roi, the God who sees me. Not the God who sees everyone from a distance, but the God who sees me, specifically in this hole I've fallen into. Whether it was Moses at the backside of a desert or David hiding in a cave, God always ignores the palace to find the person in the hidden place. He is not looking for you in the public square where you have it all together. He is looking for you in the car, on the floor, and at the edge, because that is where the performance ends and the reality begins. Now that we have identified the where, we must look at the when, because the timing of your collapse is actually the key to your greatest victory. Timing is everything in heaven's courtroom. These defining moments do not just happen anywhere, and they certainly do not happen at just any time. They usually strike between 2 and 4 in the morning. This is what some call the witching hour, but for you, it was the stripping hour. It is the time when your defenses are completely down. You are too exhausted to maintain the mask. You are too tired to pretend you are okay. Here is the truth you need to face. Your forgotten moment happened at the end of your strength, not at the beginning of the test, not during the first week when you were full of fire and zeal. It happened after you had exhausted every single strategy you knew. You prayed, you fasted, you quoted every scripture you had memorized. You did everything the good Christian handbook told you to do, and nothing changed. The answer stayed silent. The door stayed locked. This moment happened after a public display of strength. You remember it. Maybe you stood up and worshiped while your heart was breaking. Maybe you told everyone God is good even though your bank account was empty. People looked at you and said, "Wow, look at their faith." And you felt the pressure to live up to that. But 3 hours later, when the lights went out and you were alone in your car or on that bathroom floor, the adrenaline wore off. In that darkness, you whispered something you have been ashamed of ever since. You said, "I can't do this anymore." Or maybe you just exhaled a long, defeated breath that said it for you. You felt like a failure because that did not sound like victory. You felt like you had quit. But heaven saw something else entirely. There is a massive difference between quitting and surrendering. Quitting is when you walk away from God, you curse Him, you leave the relationship. But surrendering is when you stay in the relationship, but you finally stop pretending. You admit your limitation. You say, "God, I am empty. You are going to have to do this because I am out of options." You stayed connected while confessing you were weak. You stayed present while releasing control. That honest, broken surrender is exactly what is on replay in the throne room. Why? Because God's power is not just enhanced by your weakness. According to the Greek translation of 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9, His power is actually completed in your weakness. Without your inability, His ability has no place to rest. You thought that 2 a.m. moment was the end of your story. You thought it was proof that you were not strong enough. But God was watching for who you truly were when you had nothing left to perform with. He found your true self in the rubble of your collapse. No performance, no mask, just you, raw, honest, and still hers. Are you beginning to see it now? The moment you tried to delete is the moment that qualified you for the throne. You were seen, you were documented, and you were approved, not for your strength, but for your authenticity. But there is more. When you surrendered, God was not watching what you lost. He was watching what you kept. And what you kept is the key to your next level of authority. When you surrendered on that floor, when you finally stopped trying to be the hero and simply admitted you were at your breaking point, God was not looking at what you lost. He was not counting the missed opportunities or the broken pieces of your ego. He was watching what you kept. This is what I call the dignity preservation matrix. You see, there are 4 possible outcomes when you are thrust into the furnace of a life-defining test, but only one of them leads to a celestial promotion. The first outcome is when you keep your external world and your internal world intact. You keep the money, the status, and the health, and you keep your faith. But let's be honest, that isn't a test. Anyone can worship when the sun is shining and the bills are paid. That is just living a good life. The second outcome is the total collapse. You lose the external things and you lose yourself in the process. You become bitter, you blame the world, and you abandon the God who called you. That is a failed test. Then there is the most dangerous one, the third outcome. This is where you keep all the external trappings of success, the house, the title, the public respect, but you lose your internal core. You are performing, but you are empty inside. You are a hollow shell of the person God intended you to be. This is a false victory, and it is a trap that many fall into. But then, chosen one, there is the fourth outcome, your outcome. You lose the external things. You lose the relationship you cherished. You lose the financial security you worked so hard for. Everything on the outside is stripped away until you are standing naked in the wind. But you keep your internal things. You keep your identity. You keep your connection to the Father. You keep your integrity even when it would be easier to lie. You keep yourself. This is true passing. Look at the story of Job, chapter 1, verses 20 to 22. Job had just lost his children, his wealth, and his legacy in a single afternoon. He didn't put on a brave face. The Bible says he tore his robe and shaved his head. He grieved, he broke, he fell to the ground. But in all that devastation, he did not charge God with wrong. He lost the external, but he preserved his dignity. He remained Job. And that is exactly what happened to you at 2 o'clock in the morning. You weren't pretending to be a giant of faith. You were broken. You were devastated. But you didn't turn away. You stayed in the room with God and spoke the truth. You were more yourself in that moment of weakness than you had ever been in your moments of strength. God saw that you could lose everything and still remain His. He saw that your faith wasn't a transaction, it was a covenant. Now, as we prepare to close this chapter, I need to tell you what happens next. Because God has seen what He needed to see, the gates are beginning to shift. You are being moved from the wilderness into a position of authority that the world cannot understand. But you must be ready, because the enemy is already planning his next move to steal your peace. So, what happens now that God has finally seen what He needed to see? The promotion has been released. But listen closely, because this is not the promotion you were expecting. It is not about public applause or a sudden influx of followers on your social media. You are being promoted to invisible authority. This is about hidden influence. This is the kind of kingdom power where nobody knows your name and nobody sees the work you do behind closed doors. But the spiritual climate of your entire city shifts because you are there. Because you passed the test of the hidden moment, you have qualified for the highest level of hidden kingdom impact. But I have to warn you, because you are being elevated, the enemy is about to launch a specific counterattack. Within the next 2 weeks, you will feel a sudden, intense pressure to perform again. You will feel an urgent need to prove you are worthy of this breakthrough. You will want to show everyone that you passed. You will feel the urge to post about it, to announce your victory, and to act like you have it all together. Do not fall for it. That pressure is a trap. The enemy wants to get you back into performance mode, so you forfeit the very authority you just earned. Remember this: God promoted you for being real, not for being impressive. He chose you because you were honest on that bathroom floor, not because you were powerful on the stage. Stay hidden, stay real, stay yourself. Let the results do the talking. Within the next 40 days, you will begin to see the first shifts. Doors will open that you didn't even know existed. Not because you were lucky, but because you are ready. What your ancestors could not access, you will walk into with ease. Angels are being dispatched right now to clear your path. Divine appointments are already being scheduled by the Father. You are moving from the waiting room to the war room. You are moving from being forgotten to being unforgettable in the eyes of heaven. The fight isn't over, it is just getting started. But this time, you aren't fighting to be seen. You are fighting from a position of being fully known. Walk in your new authority. Own your weakness. And never forget that the moment you thought was your total collapse was actually the moment heaven decided you were ready to lead. Now stand up. Your next season has already begun. You have done an incredible job staying with me through this revelation. Let this message sink into your spirit. The core lesson is simple. Your true value is not found in your public strength, but in your private honesty with God. He loves the real you more than the perfect version you try to present. If this message resonated with your soul, comment 999 to let us know. If you feel we can improve or want to see more powerful content, press 0 or leave a detailed comment with your thoughts. Your perspective matters to this community. And do not forget to subscribe to the channel so I have the motivation to keep bringing you these divine blueprints for your journey.